We'll talk about epidemiological data and disease surveillance. Now عندنا هني الشابتر 4 طبعا في وايد resources حلوه ويب سايتس وامور هذه تبين وين disease databases, how you find them, how they are recorded. عندنا two vital concerns of epidemiological data. مشكلتين كبار which is أنا every day I suffer from here. يعني السبب إن هني you will barely find a high quality epidemiological study because of the quality of data, because unfortunately both يعني كل sectors of Ministry of Health, they don't know the fundamentals of recording or controlling data, which is a big problem here. And then they don't know how to appropriately use this data. يعني مثلا بتشوف in wide studies about prevalence published زين شنو يسوون؟ ياخذونها من disease registry. now شنو المشكلة بهذه؟ أنا قاعد أسوي study or survey، مو survey، study خذيت الداتا من registry. Is that random sampling?
No.
Is that data independently collected?
لا convenience بعد.
فالمشكلة شنو يسوي له؟ في convenience sampling وهذا، فبالتالي كل الانفرنسز اللي تطلع منها خرابيط. However, there is special ways to deal with them. Okay, we will not talk about them. زين however disease registry data again they are not also يعني completely trash or cannot be used. It can be used for other applications. Now with registries which contains tens of thousands of patients, لما you have this big vast accumulation of electronic data, okay, which has huge attributes or risk factor or variables. يعني أنا الحين عندي recently I received a database of 5,000 patients, 800 variable, okay, a registry, okay, so basically that's a big data, okay, that's considered a big data, okay, which is a very simple big data, but then tech giants like Google و Facebook وهذول تخيلوا الداتا اللي قاعد يشتغلون عليها مالت الناس شلون their preferences, their attributes. We are talking about billions of people, okay? So this is where it comes the concept of big data. والستورج حقه يزيد مع البيج داتا هذا. زين طبعا عندنا wide sources of big data, registries, insurance companies, all of these services. زين طبعا three features that defines the big data عندنا الvolume, الvariety, and الvelocity. So عندنا الفوليوم massive amount of data strain and capacity and capability. طبعا في شغله مهمه في البيج داتا. وايد انا قلت تذكرون المحاضره اللي صارت بالليل مالت الببليك هيلث، قلنا ان مشكله البيج داتا شيء واحد، هي مو بس راندوم وما فيها اندبندنسي. الشيء الثاني انه اذا تتذكرون ان في الفريكونسي ستاتستكس اذا انا ما حصلت، اذا طلعت لي بي فاليو مو significant وزد عدد البيشنت من مثلا 500 to 10,000 كل شيء يصير significant. اوكي فبالتالي هذا النوع من الستاتستيك doesn't work when we talk about huge. فهذا هو الفوليوم when it's so huge البيج it's very hard to deal with using very يعني simple naive statistics. اوكي طبعا هنا عندنا الفوليوم هذا يحتاج special databases اشياء وايد. طبعا Miss Noor, she was working on that informatics صح with Oracle software which handles huge databases. And then variety. طبعا هي variety تصير شنو تصير؟ مو بس انه في different variables، no، عندنا variety، عندنا variables اللي نشوفها باكسل، عندنا data انا استخدمها مالت satellite images، raster data، في data من الانترنت، في data it's like different sources or different structure different يعني فبالتالي it's very complex way of collecting it. And then عندنا الvelocity اللي هي شنو؟ اللي هي how fast you can process, store and deal with this data, which requires a very strong infrastructure to deal with this a huge amount of data. So احنا عندنا هني this is now the idea that we always need to think about. And you're going to graduate and you're gonna see a lot of scattered data there and there, and then you need to know or figure out some people, if they are interested, to create an infrastructure to deal with that data. طبعا عشان you form an infrastructure for big data management, you need to create a linking identifier. تحاول انك تلقى شيء مشترك او you can create something that links the data. يعني انا مثلا لما اسوي some kind of special analysis like machine learning, انا treated multiple data sources, satellite images, من WHO اللي هو البيشنتس والcharacteristics، واحاول اني اربط هذا بهذا. فممكن اشوف الcommon identifier is مثلا الcoordinates، اللونجيتيود واللاتيتيود، اللوكيشن. فاللوكيشن هذا مثلا كانت التمبريتشر والرين بريسبيتيشن كذي، لقوا البيشنت فلاني مصاب بالمرض الفلاني. فممكن انا I find a linkage that هذا، او I can create a linkage between that. It's a big it's also يعني a very important thing when we think about dealing with big data. طبعا هنا عندنا الاونلاين resources. Okay, I used some of them for my past research work. Okay. طبعا number one is Google with everything. Now the question is, which is I'm surprised in أنا توقعت إن دائما you younger generation you know how to refine your researches. Unfortunately, I found majority of the time people still don't know how to use Google in the proper way. You know, you need to. So basically, what you need to know is to improve your keywords. Okay, because you can't find everything in Google. Okay. However, the idea here is how can you refine your keywords? Okay, you can start with a big simple keyword, but then you start to add words to it. Okay, until you find the proper one, which is not just straightforward until you know where to find the proper information, or the information that you entered is very hard. It's a big issue. But you guys are so lucky that you were born in an age that you have this access. Like you have the whole world in your hand, which wasn't for us 20 years ago. عندنا هنا طبعا واحدة من الأمور اللي I would always start with when I look to searches is official databases مالت WHO والOIL. When we talk about public health problem, we don't go immediately to Google. It's very dirty. We always go to the official sources like WHO, CDC, PubMed, all of these things, maalت organization. And if I fail to find the proper information, I can go to Google and then start out. But دائما احنا we start with the official sources of data or health data. Now, شنو factors that influence or quality of data, which is a very important part. When you work with data, you need to assess the quality مالتها. اللي هي sources, where do you هذا? Google versus WHO. When you want to look for these like hepatitis, which one is better? Of course, WHO. How complete the data cover the reference population? Is it really covering the whole reference population or not? يعني مرات it's like تشوفين في reports فيها incidents, however, what is the reference population? How is it really well covered? Sometimes you see people reporting incidents, but it's like completely wrong. ما في really well-defined population at risk. The quality of data affect permissible application of the data. طبعا if the data was kind of very bad, you can't do anything with it. Okay, and then also the types of statistical analysis. So the dirtier the data, the more complex your statistical analysis would have to go to. And to me, that's a really fun part. Like sometimes I had really bad data, I can't do anything with it. However, when you have a challenging data, it's very fun to try to solve a problem and find a proper statistical way to summarize it or work with it. Now, we need to always ask, and you're going to go to Wizara, you always need to ask these questions. What is the nature of the data, including sources and content? Where did you collect it? How it's collected? Okay. How available are the data? Yani how much access you have on this data? How complete is the population coverage? Does it really cover the whole population? Is there are missing? Is it representative? Okay, and then what are the appropriate and inappropriate uses of the data? Okay, you need to think all of these things when you think about how to deal with epidemiological data. Now, the nature of the data, and then any kind of data including the source and content, and then any example vital statistics. It is statistics of death and birth, okay. أو اللي هو life expectancy هذول يسمونهم vital statistics. Vital معناته death, life, الأمور هذه كلها. And then he refers to the investigator access to the data, and then any example the use of patient records and databases in which person identifying information has been removed may be permitted. طبعا هنا عندنا مرات you can access the data, however the identity of the patient are anonymous, like you don't have access to it, which is it's not a big deal most of the time. And then in the US epidemiological data that might identify a specific person may not be released without the person consent. طبعا هنا الامور هذه كلها حتى لما تسوون survey حتى when you access to the data, it's what I'm trying to say in when you want to generate statistics, I don't think in a person a specific person who is would be important. Okay, so and also maintaining anonymous and confidential is very important also, حتى for the patient to feel comfortable, حتى for the participant to feel comfortable. To me, I don't care about the identity of the patient, and people when they tell me, oh, identity, I said like, I have to know مثلا. However, I need to know, for example, where the patient lives. I can know the characteristic of the place, there is a place, the time. So sometimes I need access to these data. So again هنا عندنا نفس الكلام اللي أنا بس قلته. طبعا أهم شيء عندنا representativeness، عندنا هنا data how is it representative. فأنا مثلا الحين عندي a master student جابت لي big database from شعيبة medical complex اللي هو الريفاينري مالت شعيبة في عندهم medical complex، وده بنشوف ال occupational exposure شنو risk factor حق ال people that causes them to have hypertension. And they wanted us to do like some kind of a basic frequency statistic, and I said, wait, there is a problem here. The data هذه does not represent all of the workers in the oil sector. It only represents people who go to Shaiba, work in Shaiba, and go to that complex. So that's not a representative data for خلينا نقول احنا if we are interested, which is the hypothesis about what really causes hypertension to the people who works in the oil sector, which is عندنا احنا كذا كي company كذا شركات، فبالتالي احنا we need to know حتى الهوسبيتال registry مالت مبارك we cannot use it to infer to other registries from different governments. So we have always to think about external validity. طبعا هنا in some instances the data may be used only for cross-sectional studies. طبعا هذا اللي هو غالبا دائما احنا when we work with disease registries or surveys, it's always a cross-sectional study. In other data may be used primarily for case control studies. طبعا you can use case control retrospectively, and access to a database, huge database. You can start picking randomly cases, and then you try to match them with controls. Then we will talk more in details with cases and control, but that in a retrospective in which you want to identify a specific exposure, within that database. So it can be a case control when the database is of a high quality. طبعا مو trash. And instead another, the data may be provide information about the incidence of the disease and may be used to assess risk status. طبعا هنا إذا كانت data updated on طبعا هنا when we talk, which is very important, when we talk about incidence of the disease معناته إن data it has to always renewed على طول it receives new cases, and it has at least something close to a well-defined population at risk. So it has to, when we talk about incidence, then we have to have at least those criteria or something close to them, okay? طبعا US Bureau of Census, it's a very huge data, and كل اللي تكلمنا عنه it applies to them. People there in US, they don't take statistic lightly. They are, it's very important. And if you want to have دولة تمشي طريق صح فيها اقتصاد فيها هذا, you have to have good statistics. إذا أنت ما عندك good statistics معناته أنت تقول ماشي على البركة. I don't know how much you want to be always ماشي على البركة. So هناك عندهم a special bureau for US Census. Estimate total population size, subdivision of the population by geographical area, and it's conducted every 10 years. Okay, but it's a huge amount of data. يعني فيها huge potentials to estimate all what we talked about. Unlike طبعا here بالكويت, we don't have this kind of capacity. يعني نفس الشيء طريقتهم عندهم, they do it like for 10 years, and then April 1 is the census day, primary April 1st is their census day, which is the start of the new fiscal year, the start of new everything. Now again, vital statistics are also important. Vital statistics هذه موجودة لازم كل دولة, which is also احنا عندنا إياها, اللي هي events of death, birth, marriages, divorces, and fatal death. The vital registration system in the United States collect information routinely on these events, as well as other countries. They have to report وفيات وهذا الأمور. عندنا هنا death, very simple معروفة. Mortality data are almost totally complete because death are unlikely to go unrecorded. طبعا أكثر data ممكن يشوفونها complete اللي هي statistics مالت الdeath. يعني ما نادر ما تلقون واحد ميت محل, لأن بالنهاية we will always know about الdeath هذه. Death certificate data in the United States include the following information: demographic characteristic, of course, age. طبعا it's similar to our death certificate. Is it, Ms. Noor? Did you deal with the death certificates? What kind of standard فيها?
You mean the
Yes.
variables? Not the variables. The how to write it.
Yes.
After that, the doctor has to fill all the blanks in this certificate, and also the clerk or the employee of medical records write the demographic data of. So the clinical data for the doctor and the demographic for the clerk or the medical record employee.
What about الكوردر مال المشرحة؟
I'll give you some because I work with cause of death data in Kuwait. Usually, the cause of death is not reliable everywhere in the world. Here, it's a major problem, maybe more than the US and other countries. But cause of death is a problem everywhere.
They didn't write the exact cause of death,
Like yeah.
Yeah, all people they died from who have the الدورة الدموية.
The same yeah.
The same for all, but this is not the real cause. For sure, they will be done from this, but the مشرحة, I don't think they can write in this certificate. They write a report for يعني if they should go to مشرحة.
Yeah.
مشرحة ما كان شيء.
Really?
ما كان شيء. نفس الأفلام اللي طلعت.
Okay. I
بس
see.
الاثنين يكتبون دكتور وموظف السجنات بس.
Yeah. Okay.
بعدين الديث سيرتيفيكيت هذه signed by اللي هم مركز الوطني للمعلومات الإحصاء مركز الإحصاء.
Nice. Cool. Okay. So هذا هني US standard certificate of death. Okay. And by the way, نفس ما قالت الدكتورة, as Dr. Iman said, note that specified cause of death may not be entirely accurate. Primary cause of death is sometimes unclear. Okay, sometimes people die just like this. Diagnostic criteria may lack consistent standards, and some condition may be unreported because of the stigma.
Like suicide.
Exactly, correct. Now عندنا birth statistics. اوكي. طبعا انا اديت هم شيء يعني واحد ينكد بس هم انا مرات البيرث statistics هم تضيق خلقي. يعني الدنيا تصير زحمه. اوكي. فبالتالي include live birth and fetal death presumed to be nearly complete used to calculate يعني birth rates which is not like death يعني you will always know who's get انولد and know who died. Hopefully in understanding birth defects, the length of gestation, birth weight and demographic background of the mother. Also this is a important part of the birth statistics. And then limitations, maternal birth statistics affected by mother failure to record events during pregnancy, record bias, and there may be conditions that were not detected at birth. And then an example of information collected, and then location, facility, mother, identification, and then أشياء وايد يعني related to those certificates. Now, عندنا part اللي هو data from public health surveillance program. Okay. So عندنا surveillance program. Now there are three examples are surveillance system for the following. عندنا communicable and infectious diseases. وعندنا non-infectious diseases and then risk factor for chronic diseases. So this is what we usually collect from surveillance. Okay. So, شنو surveillance system? Surveillance it's basically
monitoring.
A systematic. It's now monitoring different than surveillance. We'll talk about surveillance is basically a systematic collection, processing, and analysis of epidemiological data with a pre-specified action. So basically, شنو يصير إذا أنا I was collecting data about a specific disease وحطيت لي threshold إن إذا الحالات عدت هال threshold an alarm will be triggered. أوكي. فأنا حاط إنه إذا أعداد المرضى من هالمرض زاد عن المتوقع I'm gonna trigger an emergency alert. So هذا basically the idea of surveillance. Now monitoring شنو؟ Monitoring is basically مثلا أنا I'm doing vaccination. In order to assess the effectiveness of vaccination, I monitor the population, أجمع منهم عينات دم وأشوف كذا. So it's not basically monitoring a disease. هذا وايد ناس يغلطون منه. Monitoring إن أنت you monitor of مثلا something you applied as an intervention. تبي تشوف الefficacy ماله. قاعد تجمع عينات فيه because you want to see the performance or how does it behave over time. So that's basically monitoring. Unlike surveillance.
بس دكتور عادي تشرح surveillance systems ما أفهمها بس like in simpler terms.
شلون؟ يعني لا surveillance system اللي هو general definition اللي هو شنو؟ اللي هو systematic.
Okay.
It's a systematic collection, processing, and analysis of epidemiological data with a pre-specified action.
Okay. يعني نفس ال threshold هو ال pre-specified.
Threshold, exactly.
Okay.
That's very simple. هذا surveillance.
Okay.
بتحس إنه نفس الابيديميك كير إنه مثلا حالة.
It's part of it إن أنت you construct epidemic curves. هذا part of surveillance. باكر راح نسوي a lot of epidemic curves. ليش فيك مع الهام؟
ما أحب الابيديميولوجي خلاص.
ليش؟
كرهته.
ليش في الابيديميولوجي؟
ما أدري دكتور كان يونس ماستر 1 بس الحين.
شنو اللي كان يونس فيه الحين ما كان يونس؟
لأنه كان في هيستوري وكنا قاعد نتعلم عن شنو example عن case control والcohort.
يعني راح نرد عليه هذول.
إيه بس يعني.
ولازم تعرفين البرنسبلز. أنا بالنسبة لي I like surveillance because it's basically wide field action. So if you it's basically when you have a specific outbreak or something as a problematic as هذا you know how. And surveillance أنا عندي أحلى الcase control والcohort هذه كلها because it's something that requires you to solve problem and make decisions. So unlike case control cohorts, very slow, they take time, okay? And then, it's very tricky to make decisions and people not everyone can really deal with them. It's وبعدين بالكويت احنا ما عندنا case control cohorts. حلم هذا أصلاً. And it's in case control cohorts. So basically, when you say I like case control cohorts, basically you are chasing the ghosts in بالكويت.
وناسة.
Yeah.
It's could be good.
So هنا عندنا هنا structure simplified for a generic surveillance system. So شنو هنا عندنا occurrence of events, case confirmation. تذكرون اول اكسل توتوريال عن الميرس كورونا فيروس كان في reported to confirmed cases, that's part of a surveillance system مسوينها السعودية. Okay, so basically we have a case of MERS corona, we confirm it. Okay, if it's sometimes it's influenza, so خلاص هذا أنا أشيلها استبعدها. يعني الكورونا virus has influenza like symptoms but it's more fatal than influenza.
You only use the confirmed?
Yes. But sometimes احنا نحط reported will confirm because هم مرات we lose الكيسز هذه مالت reported. بعدين reporting sources physicians health care انزين وفي audience طبعا السعوديه هنا عندهم شفافيه في الناحيه بان عندك اونلاين ويب سايت يسمونه مركز القاده والتحكم مال وزاره الصحه. They posted daily cases of coronavirus وشنو الكاركترستيك وين وكذا. فهني عندنا الاودينسز وبعدين عندنا الداتا ريسيبينتس. So basically بعد ما الفيزيشنز واللابراتوري كونفيرم الكيسز اللي استلموها يدزونها حق you guys. So انتو في السكند
Data receipt.
yes انتو you are the data recipient public health worker. Primary level
مثلا ليش انا انطرهم لما يطرشوني انا اقدر ادخل الموقع اشوفه؟
يوصلنا لسوي.
انت اللي قاعد تسوي الموقع.
اوكي انا اسوي الموقع.
انت قاعد تسوي الموقع وتستخدمين الداتا and you post it. So people who work على الويب سايت مع مركز القياده والتحكم they receive data are public health workers.
هذا بجمع الداتا ولا تحتاج تشتغل؟
Yes هم الفيزيشنز في الفيلد هم they collect the data and they deal with the patient كذي. بس انت you are receiving all the data and you can summarize them and do all of the statistics that we done. So هني تشوفون steps مالتنا data management, collection, entry, editing, storage, analysis, report generation. احنا مو قاعد نسوي figures, مو قاعد نسوي tables. Report generation, report dissemination. How you disseminate, whether you disseminate it online, whether تدزين ايميل حق الوزير to take an action. Secondary level state health department, tertiary level federal agency. طبعا هذا على مستوى اليونايتد ستيتس. احنا كويت صغيره فيعني ها فانتو you can see انه هل الديزيز في issues. هل انتو you have the way or people listen to you not الفيزيشن. لما الفيزيشن يقول والله في حالات وايد ايش دراك في حالات وايد على اساس قلت في حالات وايد. انت you are dealing with individual patients. However انتو you are the recipient of the data. يعني انتو هم اللي يكلفون انتو تاخذها بعد نبرة. Okay. So هذا هو هنا التعريف. Refers to systematic continuous gathering information about occurrence of disease and other health phenomena. هذا simple. طبعا أنا I always like to add with pre-specified action إن ما تبين بس تجمعين data وبس. You have to plan إن أنا إذا disease عدى المرحلة هذه لازم أسوي emergency plan. إذا عدى مثلا هذا يسمونه preparedness. Okay. Now عندنا شغلة يسمونها syndromic surveillance. شنو syndromic surveillance? Describe using health-related data that precede diagnosis and signal a sufficient probability of a case or an outbreak warrant further public response. مثلا واحدة من الشغلات اللي أنا استخدمها كsyndromic surveillance هذا عندي people فجأة at certain point مثلا شهر 10 كمية البنادول اللي شروها كانت عالية ولا كمية الفيتامين سي معناته signaling إن أنا عندي flu epidemic. مرات أقدر أستخدم الكليك سيرش. People are looking for certain clinical symptom. Okay. عارض معين مثلا كحة that oozes blood. Okay. واحد يكح يطلع معاه دم. فأشوف إن في ناس قاعد يروحون وايد أونلاين to check شنو أسبابها. فإذا وصل يعني أنا I did not diagnose the case. Syndromic surveillance I did not. I'm monitoring. I'm actually gathering data from pharmacies. I'm gathering data from hospitals. I'm gathering data from the internet. بدون لا أسوي أي diagnosis وبعدها أتنبأ إنه ممكن عندي outbreak of corona, outbreak of influenza, outbreak of tuberculosis. Okay. فعن طريقة syndrome عن طريقة clinical sign which did not get diagnosed. It's only a behavior. If you notice, it's basically syndromic surveillance. I'm looking for a behavior in excess that reflects a specific disease. Okay, so عندنا هنا So عندنا هني شنو لما نقول reportable and notifiable disease statistics؟ في امراض معينه الدول مجبوره ان they report about it like bird flu swine flu عندنا هني عندنا في شغلات مثل HIV statistics hepatitis هذه شغلات المجبورين احنا كدول حتى في مرات اذا طلع مرض جديد نفس الزيكا فيروس او الايبولا فجأة كذي suddenly emerged countries are obliged to report it and if they don't report it they will have penalties they will have issues. اوكي عندنا هم امراض اللي تهدد الثروه الحيوانيه مثل الحمى القلاعيه هذا المرض طبعا قلنا احنا اثاره غير indirect يعني مثلا في people who depends on meat exports اوكي يعني البيف اندستري مثل ارجنتينا او اليونايتد ستيتس if the disease affected their cattle they have to report it and then when they report it they will not be able to export their meat which has a catastrophic economical impact على الindustry and many people will lose their jobs. So you don't understand هناك الميت او الفود industry في اليو اس is so huge and they really take the animal disease issue big time يعني عندنا بالنهاية ان people who they don't have a job they get they don't have an income because of these kind of catastrophes it will have a lot of consequences صح ولا لا؟ So it's in the end we have to think هذا طبعا infectious highly infectious نفس الإيبولا هذا very important that to be reported. Okay. هنا عندنا examples of notifiable disease condition anthrax botulism gonorrhea hepatitis A C عندنا HIV عندنا meningococcal disease which is basically اللي هو السحايا التهاب غشاء السحايا عندنا الممبس syphilis tuberculosis عندنا viral hemorrhagic diseases like Ebola and then the Zika virus. So هذه list of a human that you should notify World Health Organization when you get.
شنو البوتيليزم دكتور؟
botulism أول شيء على هالسالفة البوتيليزم. شوف هي كثر ما هالبكتيريا يعني هم ضارة هي طبعا البوتيليزم تسبب تسمم غذائي. Okay. Very common. Okay, it's a bacteria that causes food poisoning. وهم تسوي مرات neurological symptoms and يعني related to the central nervous system يعني what can be used as a biological agent يعني to cause يعني biological warfare يعني. However البكتيريا نفسها إنه غيرت العالم. طبعا البكتيريا هذه تفرز سم هذا السم is a paralytic يعني شنو يسوي شلل حق الاعصاب. اوكي guess what ما سمعت بالبوتوكس؟ yes so البوتوكس it's actually البويزن مال هالبكتيريا which is يعني كل الكويت كل العالم ياخذون بوتوكس it's an industry huge.
It's a bacteria, right?
Yeah, it's the poison اللي هو التوكسين مال هالبكتيريا. فمن شي اسمها بوتوكس من البوتيليزم. شنو قصتها هذه البوتوكس؟ هذه طلعت السالفة بكندا. كان في patient وكان يعني drug under experiment. كان في patient المسلز مالته ما تشتغل سوري مو المسلز الأعصاب اللي تمسك الفيس muscles كانت شنو؟ كانت inactive. فشي اللي صاير بوجهها تشوفين وجهها كأنه ذايب العضلات ذايبة ما في يعني شو اللي يشد الوجه؟ النيرفز. اوكي فشافوا انه it's a neurotoxin البوتيليزم it's a neurotoxin so that it affects the central nervous system ويخلي العصب يشد يصير مثل يعني تشنج فيه. فالطبيب فكر which was a very genius doctor it's a cosmologist and he said like what if I inject البيشنت هذا اساس انه اخلي وجهه يشد وبالتالي عضلاته تشد. اوكي سوى التجربه it worked البيشنت رجع للستركتشر مال وجهه and then from there people are thinking about okay, so basically when I age or start aging على فكرة العضلات تضعف معاها النيرفز تضعف، فأنا when I أنزل بوتوكس أخليها تشد والوجه يشد معاها. And now it become a multi-million-dollar industry. يعني وباي ذا واي يعني ترى تلاحظوا it's not just about beauty. When you start to age you will get depressed. However أنا مع البلاستيك surgery because it makes women feels better about themselves. You don't feel it because you are young, but when you get old I don't think in people who يعيبون البلاستيك surgery in shame them. No هاي مسوي عمليات تجميل. أنا قاعد أشوف إن عمليات تجميل makes women feel more comfortable with themselves, self-esteem, or they don't get depressed. Okay, I think that's and صدق ترى يعني وايد الكوزميك surgery في وايد دراسات إنه really improved women health and take them out of their depression. So that's the miracle most important drug came from.
هذا فيروس.
Yeah, again, it's a type of plastic surgery. But yeah, filler it's a different type. But I'm just telling you in the botox, which is still used, and it came from there. Yeah, you can do fillers, you can do whatever you want to do.
ترقب دكتور.
Now أنا مشكلتي شيء واحد طبعا. When you people do it يعني بالUS تشوفين إنه واحدة عمرها 50 very graceful وجهها مشدود وحلو ومبين هذا، بس لما يصير شيء I don't understand. مساكين الممثلين عندنا يعني الكويتيات الكبار
يمخرعون.
ليش كذي؟ ليش؟ يعني there is a way to make it very graceful. إنزين؟ بس هذا كذي البرطم والخد اللي كذي يعني it just I don't know what to say يعني about it. طبعا again it's a personal preference. She feels happy أهم شيء. لا تجي مثلا تنكد على الناس. Okay, and when you females get so depressed and grumpy, you destroy the whole place.
I agree.
Okay. So عندنا reportable notifiable disease عرفناها اللي هي a major deficiency of these diseases can be incomplete population coverage. طبعا عندنا أهم شيء في السيرفيلنس ومشكلته إنه يسموه أو إحنا نسميه يا إنه under coverage or under reporting. خلينا نتكلم على الكيس مالت الميرس كورونا فيروس اللي سويناها بأول لاب. أنا راويتكم إنه سويت خريطة الخليج العربي. The Gulf region وشفتوا إن الكويت other countries they are under reporting. مع إن إحنا one country البوردر مالنا open. And I have sources من my friends in Saudi Arabia saying إن camels اللي يدشون الكويت are positive for MERS corona. However الكويت ترفض إنها تبين أو تبلغ عن حالات أو goes actively to look for it. فمو معناته لما احنا شفنا الخريطه او شفنا الريبورت مالت WHO ان الكويت عندها 5 أو 6 حالات ان it's not them. It's just in الكويت they don't want to report or they are under reporting or they don't care about it. Okay, so هذا major يعني deficit في communicable disease او now عندنا also limited information about person who develop a disease and do not seek medical attention. So people في ناس بعدهم ما لهم خلق يروحون طبيب. They develop a disease or they try to live with it and they don't do. Sometimes they cannot afford it. Failure of physicians and other providers to fill out the proper forms. هذا أكثر مصيبة بالكويت. يعني أنا أستغرب من شغلة واحدة يعني it's like يعني it's very impressive. إن الدكتور هني ما عنده وقت to fill الفورمة بس عنده وقت ياخذ حق نفسه سيلفي ويتكلم عن شو اللي سواه في الحياة. وباي ذا واي ترى اتس ترو شفتوا الحين هالاطباء اللي متخرجين I've discovered يعني انا اخواني منهم انا ليش طبعا اطب فيهم وايد لان يامون 4 من اخواني are doctors يعني واستشاريين يعني So فذاتس واي انا لما اتكلم ضد الدكاتره كل يد ان انا اخواني دكاتره فما حد يقدر takes an action against me. I'm immune to that.
بس اخاف يطلعون اليوتيوب هذا.
اوكي. ناو المشكله اللي تصير انه يس ان يتخرجون وعندهم انه لازم لما تتخرج تصير استشاري تفتح لك انستغرام تصير فاشينيستا to promote yourself. Okay, so anyway, and then they don't care about filling the forms هذه والامور هذه كلها, which is something you will be encountering. عندنا هني chronic disease surveillance. طبعا عندنا chronic disease surveillance, it's also a very important type of surveillance. Okay, عندنا هني a highly prevalent disease. Okay, الأزمة معروفة يعني. أتوقع أن most of you guys either have asthma or had asthma or have a brother that had asthma. طبعا لها أسباب وايد. Incurs substantial medical and economic costs. طبعا اللي هو cost of controlling it, dealing with it. Associated with inflammatory lung and airway conditions. So عندنا هنا الأزمة surveillance programs provide data necessary for the development and evaluation of healthcare services for afflicted person. طبعا هنا عندنا it's a chronic disease and we collect data about the medication and cost, who got asthma, how many people in the family who got asthma, how do they control it. All of this is huge big data that also gives us surveillance. And then الحلو when we collect the data هذه we start to do an analysis, and then we start to what would be the most important risk factor, how can we improve the control of such chronic disease. طبعا الأزمة is one, and then diabetes also another chronic disease. So عندنا هني we lack the surveillance program for those chronic diseases, unfortunately. طبعا هني when we think about هذا an example of a parameter for thinking about how we can do surveillance for chronic diseases. أول شيء we think about شنو الأزمة prevalence والseverity مالتها. بعدين we schedule official visits, unscheduled office visits. طبعا هذا also we encountered. يعني عندنا نقاط اللي هو prevalence والseverity. Now we're gonna see how we can assess that. نشوف scheduled and unscheduled office visits, and then ED urgent care, hospitalization. عندنا هم mortality من asthma. وفي شغلات هم related to that surveillance اللي هو شنو triggers that causes asthma. Quality of life. تعرفون ان people who have asthma is less likely to exercise, which is also another thing that affects the quality of life. The cost, medication هذا it's a huge cost. وعندنا الفارماسي هم in which the patient or the asthmatic patient purchases his drug. So it's kind of a system here in which how can you formulate a surveillance program to a chronic disease like asthma. Okay, so عندنا هني another type of surveillance system اللي هو يسمونه behavioral risk factor surveillance system used by the United States to monitor at the state level behavioral risk factors that are associated with chronic diseases. Now, again هذا بالكتاب بس حاطين كلمة monitor. Again أنا عندي issues with the word monitor. حطيتها أنا متماشية مع الكتاب. However, I would say used by the United States to
surveillance.
Not surveillance, collect مثلا, at the state of behavior risk factor, in this case. But again, Tara, by the way, I'm telling you my opinion and how I look at surveillance with monitor. However, ما راح أخدعكم بهالسؤال بالامتحان يعني. It's just I'm giving you an extra information here. But أنا عندي at least بس لو تفهمون زبدة الكتاب هذا you are very good to move forward. Are associated with chronic disease. Example of data related to عندنا أول شيء health risk behavior, preventive health practices and healthcare access. Now عندنا أول شيء behavior of the patient. Okay. يعني behavior هذا حتى لا مثلا consequences اللي هي accidents مالت هذا أو حتى behavior of purchasing specific drugs. Okay, it's basically similar to syndromic, but it focuses mainly on the behavior itself. عندنا هني preventive health practices. زين طبعا عندنا risk factors وخلينا نشوف هم شنو consequences مالت current behavior risk اللي هو preventive health practices. يعني احنا when we do a system like this we are not just monitoring the patient. احنا we also monitoring the system نفسه مال الوزارة. How is الوزارة taking preventive actions or لا؟ طبعا preventive actions wide. فاحنا we look at these two components when it talks about behavior risk factor surveillance. With access to healthcare. عندنا patient behavior, the behavior of the Ministry of Health, and then the ability connection between them, and access to healthcare of the patient to that system. Okay, so it's a very common sense idea. So عندنا هنا شيء يسمونه الكيس registry is a very common thing بالكويت. إنزين. Centralized database for collection of information about the disease. A register is a document used to collect information. Examples of registries includes National Program of Cancer Registries. طبعا بالUS. إحنا عندنا هني عندنا registry.
عندنا we do have a registry. It's actually,
Cancer, yeah.
It's one of the oldest in the region. We have a fairly good one.
Oh really? I did not know that.
It's فاتحة بالسبعينات actually when all the other countries didn't have anything really. So
Can anyone access it?
You can access it. The quality of the data is subjective.
I see. Okay. So عندنا هني كم هذا another program which is surveillance epidemiology and results. C program. طبعا احنا by the way احنا we hope you guys when you graduate you establish هيئة مراقبة أمراض. شغلة like similar to CDC. طبعا فتشيت لكم هيئة معاشات حلوة ترى تصير. وبدلات وحركات بس no seriously احنا we need شو اسمه something like CDC بالكويت to monitor all of these type of diseases, you know, awareness كذا. Where there is a يعني وايد ناس proposed this idea. The problem is احنا إذا فتحنا something like this we don't have the people who take care of it, and we don't want physicians to take care of it. Maybe public health workers to take care of it. Now we want to data from cancer and then monitor cancer trends over time. Show cancer patterns in various populations, identify their high risk factors, يعني شو characteristic of those cancer. Guided planning and evaluation of cancer control programs. Okay, عندنا هني screenings والأمور هذه كلها. And then help set priorities for allocating health resources. طبعا هني عندنا بالكويت. دكتورة شنو أهم كانسر؟
أهم؟
يعني أكثر كانسر prevalent.
بالمن بالwomen it's breast and for men I believe it's prostate.
بالكويت also
sorry, colorectal and prostate.
Cancer.
Year to year.
Exactly. فإحنا when we set resources and we want to look for risk factors or want studies or أمور هذه كلها we can know, and بالكويت we have those examples to take care of. So let's take a break. Okay. Now, هنا عندنا طبعا examples يعني if you want to establish surveillance system في هنا عندنا wide activities بالUS related to that. وهذا أحد examples. عندنا هنا إذا تتذكرون National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey Enhance. هذه الداتا اشتغلنا فيها وايد في when we سنة أولى بالإكسل. So the source of that data was yes, Enhance, yeah. Yeah, so this is where you can get in the data موجودة, you can play with it, you can analyze it, you can train yourself on it. وهذا also about another example of surveillance and how it works. إنزين وفي هنا عندنا هني أهم شيء عندنا هني مرات monitoring towards specific health objective as well as tracking people health status and access to healthcare. And they monitor performance and they look for related statistics. هني عندنا enhanced data started in 1956. And the Act provided for creation of studies that characterize enhanced disability in the United States. The special feature of the collection information from physical examination coupled with interviews. طبعا that's the nice thing about this data إن فيها people randomly go to hospitals إنزين وفي هناك ongoing examinations. So I select a hospital, I select the clinic, and then anyone who finishes the examination will let doctor, we want to interview you for please, it takes 5 minutes or something. And then they couple the data molecular physicians with the interview results. هني نفس الشيء another way of collecting or establishing systems. فعندنا هني لما نتخرج we can use these kind of examples to establish something similar in Kuwait. اليوم الليكتشر ترى خفيفة, it's not as heavy as it's just إنه mostly ترى general information. أهم شيء بالنهاية نعرف شنو syndromic surveillance, behavior risk surveillance, الأمور هذه كلها. However المعلومات هذه مالت examples are just a way to reiterate the idea. And one of the things اللي هي WHO provides global infectious disease surveillance data. And أنا sometimes when I fail to collect data from Kuwait أروح WHO. Unfortunately, also Kuwait they don't have a proper reporting for WHO. So it's basically محكور هني. We have issues with that. Also yields data on health indicators. Basically ranks countries based on many criteria. Collects mortality data. عندنا هم European Union. The European Union الاتحاد الأوروبي also have similar stuff related to collecting data on the European Union level. Public health data includes social and health inequalities and determinants of health. طبعا again احنا قلنا ان ال One Health لما تكلمنا فيه من قبل بالمحاضرة بالليل ان ال One Health it's about health and wealth. دائما socio-economical status if you notice ان very important disease determinant. يعني الوضع الاجتماعي وايد مهم حق ان انت which kind of disease could affect you. So very important idea دي. يعني هذا hopefully احنا we try to at some point make a course or propose a course in which you guys go to a trip to Geneva and visit those health organizations. Okay.
أتمنى قبل ما نتخرج.
Kind of internship. Also they offer internships to people to come and
This is not paid, and you have to pay for the tickets, and you have to pay for the housing, and you have to pay for everything.
No, actually they pay for you.
لا أنا قريت عنهم.
They only pay for the housing, but the tickets for traveling is on the person.
الكويت تدفع لهم اشتراك.
قالوا لا ما نبيكم كويتيين يا.
على فكرة الأورجنايزيشنز هذه WHO وكالة الطاقة الذرية IAEA وهذول ترى الكويت تدفع لهم فلوس. هذه كلها اشتراكات. فلازم هم ياخذون and they sponsor people from us otherwise ليش احنا قاعد ندفع الاشتراكات؟
صح.
So عندنا هني miscellaneous data sources, also other types of هذا. And then one thing that we need to think about data limitations. Completes the population coverage, highly selective nature, methodological limitations, availability to researchers. هذه كلها ideas we need to think about when we talk about data availability and resources مالتها. هنا عندنا هم another sources of data. Additionally, miscellaneous sources of data, patient databases. Okay, عندنا clinical data, عندنا school health records, also part of that information from abstinence report and then عندنا armed forces. طبعا واحدة من الشغلات الحلوة إن if you do a school survey which is I see it like I don't know Noor until you did kind of a school survey صح؟ college survey. الكوليج هذه بس في ناس هم سووا هاي سكول فإذا يسوون السيرفي however do they check the health records هل هناك دائما يكون في عيادة صغيرة. So when he does the survey, the questionnaire, does he also examine the school health records? هل في health records أصلا في السكولز هذه؟
لا في health records. I'm not sure if they use it or not. Like the vaccination, I think in my daughter's school, if she is obese or not, the demographic data, if she's diabetic or not, I think they have.
لا بالحكومة كان فيه. يعني accessibility اللي صح.
Yeah, so anyway, شنو السمري of today? Epidemiology is a quantitative discipline, okay? Quantitative يعني احنا we have very big issues with the qualitative research. في شغلة يسمونها qualitative راح تاخذونها بعدين. في وايد limitations اللي هو يعتمد على mostly survey satisfaction الامور هذه كلها يسمونها qualitative. احنا more deeper quantitative as an epidemiology data are required for descriptive and analytical studies which also represents real measurements. Data quality is a central concern of epidemiology. احنا عندنا اللي هي شنو ال representativeness اللي هي external validity the completeness الامور هذه كلها وايد في examples بالسلايد we talked about. Extended data resources are available and then online data شنو types of data اللي we can collect and then online data websites health related organizations مثل WHO CDC نفس السعودية مركز قائد التحكم في وزارة الصحة vital registration system and the National Center for Health Statistics عندنا اللي هو the Higher Council for Planning. They do have a big database, right? Yeah. So عندنا هني National Center for Health Statistics عندنا International Data Resources. Okay, دائما كلها موجودة و available. This is where you need to think and inspire about data because in the end احنا we epidemiologists our bread and butter is data. Without data you can't do anything. You can't be an epidemiologist. And you know ان احنا بالنهاية very important to know ان احنا بالنهاية مجرد numbers. We don't matter that much. We are only numbers. That's where epidemiology comes. That it shows you the bigger picture based on those numbers.